Markets with May, and I really wanted to do this episode because last week I posted that there was utter confusion in the prospectus, and today we got the preliminary prospectus, and so a lot of stuff is clarified. And I gotta say, in fairness, if I was an AMC shareholder, I would be actually a little pissed right now. I'm going to walk through what I saw, exactly where you can find everything, period, that I'm using. Ultimately, you have to make these decisions for yourself and make sure that your understanding matches mine. Hold on, let me just adjust this lighting a little bit. It's a little bit, the sun behind me is a little bit funky. This might help a little bit. All right, we're just gonna have to deal with it. Past performance not indicative of future returns. This is not investment advice. This is for education purposes only. The SEC is now requiring everyone that is a YouTuber do that. I don't know how they're going to enforce it, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyways because we are trying to just seriously provide information on something that I think is really unclear. And I want to say this as well. I have been, strangely enough, I have been reading legal documents since high school. That was my first internships, first activities. And I have, over the course of my life, had to sit in a room with a bunch of legal professionals who write, you would think, extremely well, but in fact, oftentimes not necessarily. So if you have confusion remaining, please do put it in the comments at a minimum, or put it in the comments of other YouTubers that you follow or like. But quite frankly, between the issuance of the preliminary proxy and the final proxy to be registered and voted upon by shareholders, you do have the right to tell the company that they're not clear. And if anything, I almost am sad. You guys know I'm a newbie to owning AMC, but I'm not a newbie to these markets as far as that goes, for better or for worse. And if I had been around during the initial proxy, I would have absolutely been pinging AMC like crazy to clarify what they meant by initial conversion ratio, because they surely did some, I'm going to say, special stuff. We're going to go through it. And so you have to make your own call on this. Let me go. I've got a hard stop because I do have brunch with some friends. It is still Chinese New Year's, which is 14 days. And, even though I celebrate to the extent that it just gives me time to catch up with all my friends that way. All right, I'm going to share my screen. First, I want to show you where you can find the preliminary proxy. And interestingly enough, you are going to have to compare the preliminary proxy to get a real understanding of what I'm saying, as well as what I actually think you're going to need to try to understand in this document to make your own personal call on how to vote. You are going to need both documents. So this is on the AMC website. If you go to financial performance and SEC filings, you'll find the preliminary proxy on that page. So again, here, SEC filings, you click on that, you'll get this page that should look like this. And then you'll go to proxy statement notice of shareholders meeting, preliminary, dated 1/27, yesterday, essentially. And then you're also going to need this is the prospectus filed pursuant to Rule 424B5. That's the initial rules and regs that govern this whole situation you have going on here as relates to how do you vote, what do you vote, and why are you doing the things that you're doing. And there are three things that shareholders are going to have to vote on. And I know there's some comments, you guys. I am going to take a few because I don't think this will take me more than 20 minutes or so to get through. Sorry if it's kind of on the longer side, but it's actually a lot. But there are three things that shareholders are being requested to vote upon. And without that initial proxy and reading back and forth, I do think that it's easy to get lost. But these are the three things that you're voting on, three proposals. And I'm going to give them pet names, because otherwise the way that this is written is so legalese. I think it'll get hard to keep track of it. So I'm going to give them pet names, and you guys can call them whatever you want. Is basically what I have to say to that. Now, as far as the writing goes, there are more than one ways that you can write a document, a proxy document. So I'm going to say that first off. The best proxy statements, period, are written usually by Berkshire Hathaway. And that's because Warren Buffett outsources the writing to someone who is a professional writer. This looks like it was written by a bunch of bankers and a bunch of legal team people. And that is more common, but it makes it incredibly unreadable, which is part of the reason why, like I said, a lot of my life has been sitting in a room full of like very smart individuals who write in a way that makes it almost impossible for other people to understand. This is weirdly enough a spidey skill for me that I will share with you guys. Ultimately, though, since all of these documents that are filed with the SEC are legal documents, you should take them up on what they say in the document, which is have your lawyer or tax accountant take a look at it, because there are things I don't know, especially on the accounting side. Okay. All right. These are the three things. The first one I'm going to call the expansion of the dilution cap, because that is what kicked all of this off. And then the second one is the reverse conversion and reverse split together. And the third thing you're being to ask for is a revote if a quorum does not occur. So the first two have to do with changes in the bylaws, and the second one has to do with the funkiness that most people have focused on. So I'm going to handle proposal number 2 first, because proposal number 1 and proposal number 3 will only make sense with proposal number 2 first. And proposal number 2 is the controversy that y'all just have to decide how you feel about it and what the deal is. But yeah, so let's go through proposal 2, and then I think I do 3 and then 1, or 1 and then 3. And yeah, hopefully this will clarify. So the first thing in proposal number 2, now I want to show you that in this proxy, because it's a preliminary, the spacing of it, the way that it looks. Yeah, let me show that first. The spacing of it and the way that it looks is not easy to follow, because it is clearly a preliminary proxy. And thus, it does not have the spacing and filing of a typical thing you'd see on the SEC website, which is no spaces. So it looks like this. Let me share my screen really quick. All right, I got a little bit of sniffles here today. When you go through it, it is really awkward the way that it works. This is a preliminary. No, this might be the proxy. Sorry, let me just get to that really quick. But you'll see that the PDF page numbers and the actual page numbers of the document, they're not the same, which is just because of formatting. And that adds a layer of funness when you're trying to read it. Wait, what happened? It's gone now. All right, I can't find it. I think I just messed up my screen. I don't want to slow down for anything. But if you go into it, you'll see that the PDF page numbers and the actual page numbers are different, because there's a bunch of blank pages. So I'm going to give you both. The way that I've actually structured this is to try as much as I can to make this easier for you guys to go through. But if you look at it, it'll say page 12 of the PDF, page 2 of the document. And then I start to get a little bit slow, because I did this really late last night so that I could do this before all my activities today for Chinese New Year's. So in page 12 of the document, page 12 of the PDF, but it's numbered page 2 of the document, it says, each of the share increase proposal and the reverse split proposal is cross-conditioned on the approval of the other, such that the approval of both proposals is required for each of them to take effect. All right, that's what I'm talking about legal language. It's annoying. There was some lawyer that forced them to write this way, but it essentially answers the question that more than one of you guys have, which is the reverse split and reverse conversion vote separated? Fair and square. In the press release on Antara, it suggested that it would be 2 separate votes. Clearly, according to this, it is not. It is in more than one spot, but really summarized on page 12 of the PDF, which is page 2 of the document, for proposal 2. So that's the first answer that we have to our question. The second is the conversion math. Now, this is where look, you guys, I'm just a person, okay? I'm just a person. I don't have any kind of extra anything, whatever it is. And yeah, I own APE shares, which I've told you I do not own AMC shares. But even then, I was not thinking that this would be the conversion. You guys know last week I put out this video and I said, honestly, I don't know if it's option 1 or option 2. I had thought it was option 1. You can take a look at that video. And if you read the prospectus on the shelf registration and the actual prospectus, you would have thought, hey, it's really option 1. This was a really clever structure, because he has this really funky structure. But like, it is not option one. It is in fact option two. You guys were 100% right. Some of you guys wrote it a little aggressively. And I was like, guys, I really am not like clear. I'm not trying to trick you. This is actually very unclear the way that's written. And I'm actually a little disappointed in AMC that it's option two and not option one, because option one, fair and square, would have diluted just the APE shareholders this entire time without diluting the AMC shareholders, and would have made sense for why such a funky structure. But since he could have just given preferred stock, maybe there's like some legalese rule that I'm just not aware of. I'll give it to him. But this one unambiguously means that he diluted the AMC shareholders when he did that deal at the end of December. And I know like some people that are very bullish AMC are going to get mad at me, but I don't care, because the point is to be very honest about what you're seeing. The point is not for me to like talk my own book or get y'all mad at me. So this is actually the conversion math. I will give him this though. This time it was clear, okay? Whereas like in the past with the wording, it was not clear. All right. There is one piece of this that is not clear. So I am going to go through it, because when I looked at it first, I was like, wait, is there another trick? And there isn't a second trick. There really is just option two. And it's because they keep skipping steps when they do the math. And then they don't stop and think about, like, if somebody is reading this, but not an investment banker, how would they think about this? And that always drives me crazy, because like one of the things I do is I teach math. So like I will go through this with you. But essentially it is option two from my previous video. And it is 100 APE shares equals one preferred stock equals 100 common shares of stock. One APE share equals one common stock currently, meaning they 100% this entire time were diluting the AMC shareholders as well as the APE shareholders. That sucks. The second thing is that 100, now because the amendment and proposal includes the reverse split, right? So now the way that they've written this document is the reverse split happens first and the APE shares conversion goes second. But you can see very clearly later in the document that they just happen at the same time, which I will show you. But basically, after the amendment, which includes both the reverse split and the reverse conversion, you end up with 100 APE shares equaling 10 shares of common stock. Also, by the way, 10 shares of AMC equals, or 100 shares of AMC equals 10 shares of common stock. So in other words, it is exactly like option two from my second video. So again, if the question is, did he dilute the AMC shareholders? Whereas that was unclear originally from the preliminary from the prospectus of the event that happened in August, unambiguously in this preliminary prospectus, the idea is to dilute the AMC shareholders, and has been this entire time. So I do actually, in fairness, that's not cool, but it's not like unheard of given what he's trying to do. We'll talk further about it. This is not a defense of Adam Aaron, because I know some of you guys are going to be all funky pants on it. Okay. Let's see. Proposal one. Okay. Proposal one is the removal of the anti-dilution clause that kicked this thing all off to begin with. And this is why you need the original prospectus as well. On page 33 of the PDF, page 13 of the paper, this is what it says. If the share increase proposal is approved, our total number of shares of common stock authorized for issuance increases to 524, blah, blah, blah. That's what the old cap was. And as you can see from the shares outstanding, he was right on top of that cap. It increases to 550. And then as well, if you get the reverse conversion, guys, kind of hold it back, because it's not like like some of these things we'll talk about later. But if the charter amendments are adopted, this is what it would happen. So essentially, two things are effectuated in this proposal one with proposal two. So proposal two does two things. It reconverts the shares and reverse splits it. And then proposal one, because the new share count will be 144, he doesn't actually need proposal one to go through, because he has now from 144 to 524. But just to keep the number even, I guess is what the deal is, he's raising the proposal of the dilution cap to be 550. Now, honestly, you could, proposal one barely matters. Proposal two is probably the one that is going to get everybody excited. But Yeah, so that's what proposal 1 is. Look, I want to say this really clearly. If you guys are going to be mean to me on the chat, I'm just going to bounce you from the room. So watch it. Honestly, I do not have to spend my Saturdays explaining to you guys what's in these legal docs, period. Okay? Like that is 100% true. So get over it. All right, next. Thank you. All right, so that is actually so realizing proposal 1 goes through, doesn't go through, has very little impact to anyone, AMCs or APE folks. Okay. All right. The next piece of this. Okay. Proposal 3. Proposal 3. Okay. Proposal 3 is absolutely about this thing. We vote if there's not a quorum. And in order to understand why proposal 3 is here separated in a particular way, is because it has to do with the way that the rules were written in the original prospectus. I think it's mentioned in this preliminary prospectus as well, but I swear this document reads like the investment bankers were forced to stay up 24 hours for the last 3 weeks to write this document and did not bother to think about what an average person would see when they read this, trying to understand it. So this is so really you're going to need to open up the old prospectus, and I'll show you where you can find the language in the old prospectus. But it's page 18 of the original prospectus. You'll see a paragraph that talks about the procedures for conversion. And if you look at the procedures, that is why you need proposal 3. And they read as follows: under Delaware law, the affirmative vote of holders of at least a majority in voting power of the company's outstanding capital stock will be required for stockholder approval of the common stock amendment. The holders of AMC preferred equity units will be entitled to vote on the common stock amendment, and that is a 1-for-1 vote. Okay, so these below are the numbers that you'll need to pass the vote. Okay, the majority has to be at least 723,715,014. And they show very clearly that this is the total number post intera of the shares outstanding of AMC, 517, blah, blah, blah. These are the total shares of APE shares, 929, blah, 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 blah. Total shares is 1.4, blah, blah, blah. And when you do the math, this would be, if you divide it by 2, obviously, sorry, let me correct this. You'll need at least one more share to make majority under Delaware law. That's the dealio, okay? That is why you need proposal 3, because as you can see in the next slide, on page 47 of the proxy. So the last slide, by the way, this verbiage and what's what is coming from the filing back in September of the final prospectus of the shelf filing. Marantz, I don't actually think much of you, other than I really wish you would stop coming onto my channel being like mean for no reason. I actually don't mind all the other stuff. You're entitled to your opinion. I just wish you wouldn't do it on my channel. Okay? That's really what it comes down to. I don't have any kind of problem with anyone trying to create entertainment or knowledge, but honestly, you just need to do it on your own channel. That's really what it comes down to. I don't go on your channel and be rude. All right, so here's what it is. Sorry, I shouldn't have diverged. Usually, I'm going to turn off the chats for now so I can actually get through this description without causing any grief. Okay, proposal 3, you need this majority. You will find the verbiage for this in the original prospectus on page 18 with the sentence that starts here. So that's why you need proposal 3. And let me explain even more clearly then why he then gives you this information. On page 47 of the proxy vote, he gives you what the existing share count is, that is the folks that he raised capital from, the passive investor, which is Vanguard, which I will talk through a little bit more, and then the board and officers, okay? So this is on page 47 of the PDF, page 22 of the document, and it reads as follows, based on Schedule G, from that thing from Vanguard, they list the address, blah, blah, blah. Vanguard has sole dispositive power over 45.8 million shares and voting power of this many shares and dispositive power over 1.23 blah, blah, blah shares. Okay, what does that mean? All right, Oddly enough, this is something that I do talk about again with the Berkshire Hathaway stuff, because this is one of the issues I had on my to-do list to do a lot more videos about this. But this is something that is a general kind of not the greatest thing for the marketplace. And that is that index and passive companies, fund providers like Vanguard, like BlackRock, like T. Rowe Price, et cetera, folks that do passive investments, they are actually the shareholders in the funds. And then some of them hold those shares in custody. Okay. So that means that they can actually vote however the hell they want to vote. Except to the extent that you, as the shareholder that are given your shares, ask them to vote in a different way. And each one of them has a different procedure. I don't know the procedures for every single broker dealer, guys. You're going to have to actually call your guy up and get the answer to the question. But I will show you that you can, in fact, just to demonstrate clearly that these guys do vote. This link right here, it might take me a minute because I have to go to brunch immediately after this. I'll post it down below, but you can also Google search it. I'm going to put it. Let me show you what it looks like though, but this is available. There are other ways that are available, but just to demonstrate that it is true that these guys do vote their proxies, even though they are passive investors, which was a thematic in a video, which I will also link below from Berkshire Hathaway that really isn't great. Okay, let me just show it to you and then you guys can, I'll tell you what you can do if you want to effectuate some change on this or otherwise. Why isn't it showing? Hold on. Oh man, this drives me crazy sometimes. Window. All right, this software for whatever reason is doing something crazy and not letting me show it. All right, I will put the link down. Oh wait, here it is. Sorry. Okay, So if you go to that link, it'll show you the proxy voting for Vanguard. They do show it to you and make it public so you can see it. And if you type in AMC, you can see that they did vote on multiple occasions down below where they were asked to vote annually. So realize that if you own your stuff through Vanguard or through some other place, it is up to you as the shareholder to vote the proxy. Okay. Vanguard 100% will be voting the proxy and they will probably vote for this to go through, is my guess. That is why it reads the way it reads on that other page. So sorry, going back to it, hopefully you guys are able to follow along with what I'm saying, because I do think this is not the most straightforward, but at least you can replay me fairly easily. Or compare it to other things. But if you look at this in the prospectus, page 47 of the PDF, page 22 of the document once it's finalized, but they should keep both available so you can compare and contrast the two. You will see this, which is the major shareholders list. And when you do the math on it, Vanguard and Antara have 351 million shares. So the majority, like I said, from this previous calculation, you need 723 blah, blah, blah shares so that you can get to the majority. They have this 351 yada yada shares through Vanguard and Antara. You have another 3+ million shares via the board and officers. So you still need 368.5 million shares to get the vote through. What then does Proposal 3 do? Okay, Proposal 3 allows them, kind of like what we saw in Congress recently, to continuously ask for votes until such a time as they get the majority. They can continue to solicit shareholder by shareholder, turn in your proxy, don't, vote yes, etc., until they either get a majority that says no or a majority that says yes. To get the majority to say no, they would need to start almost from scratch. So 723 million, blah, 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 and then a 5 at the end of this number would have to vote in no, would have to turn in the proxy with a no vote. Or alternatively, to get to yes, 351 additional million shares. Some of you guys are baller and own 1 million shares, or actually no, because you would come up on this filing if you own that. So this is a lot of retail investors that are going to have to turn in their proxy vote. If they don't, this just stays outstanding. That's what Proposal 3 is. If you vote for Proposal 3, which they do have enough vote to get it through if people fail to turn their proxy. So let me be even more clear. Do you need a majority vote to pass Proposal 3? No, you just need the majority of turned in votes to pass proposal 3. This is how it typically works. So given that, you've got at least 351 million shares that will absolutely be voting yes on proposal 3, if you get everyone else being lazy, if you don't get 723 million other people being lazy or whatever it is, if you don't get 351 million on the other side being lazy and failing to turn in their proxy, then proposal 3 will probably pass, which means they can then take as long as they need to pass this, which is very painful if you're an AMC shareholder. Again, the APE shareholders, because of the way this is structured, are fine. That I actually, even though I benefit from that, I'm not stoked about that, by the way, because I do think there's a little bit of unfairness going on here. Okay. The next thing I'm going to look at, so now I want to go through 2 or 3 more things. This is the procedures for execution if it actually goes through. If all of the stuff goes through, this is what you'd expect to have happen. The fractional shares, if you have them registered with CompuShare and you don't have them registered with your broker dealer, they'll just turn into a cash payment. That's how they're going to get rid of them. Sometimes they allow for fractional shares, but in this situation, they will not allow for fractional shares, which is kind of interesting because if you look at the proxy statement, because these guys are locked up, you can tell that this is not an even share number. So they'll just get like $3 in cash for those shares instead of creating a lockup situation for the board. I don't love it because honestly, I think you should suffer through the fractional shares, but like it is what it is. If I'm being like totally straightforward, and I mean, it kind of depends how you think about it because it is like really annoying. Like I have fractional shares from a couple of different things and it is really annoying to get rid of them. So that's the thing on fractional shares. However, your broker dealer can do whatever the heck they want. So you need to actually call your broker dealer if you do not have an even share count. In the shares, it would be a share count of 10. In options, buddy, this has nothing to do with options. What happens in options market is totally rules based. So you need to like work that out with your broker way in advance of anything that's happening. Additionally, according to the way this is executed, procedures for execution, fractional shares, okay, this is where I'm telling you it'll pay cash proceeds if you're just a shareholder, but broker dealers can do whatever they want. That's on page 38, page 16 of the finalized document, but page 38 of the PDF. When would it happen? It would happen as soon as the vote goes through. At the close of business day, shareholders of record will have this happen immediately on the next day. And also on page 40, the initial vote of the special meeting will happen. We currently expect the last day of trading of APE shares to be March 14th, 2023 of the charter amendment. So that tells me that the vote date is upcoming, but this is what they would currently propose. All of this stuff to go down is March the 14th. Now, if they don't get their majority, because right now management's gonna be working like crazy to get every institutional shareholder first because they'll have the biggest amount of shares, but then individual retail shareholders as well, given how much share count they need. If they don't get their majority, then they'll have to just keep revoting. So that is kind of the caveat. But given this language, I guess they feel very passionately or strongly that it's going to go through. But this is page 40 of the PDF, page 17 of the document. All right, final stuff. And then I'll take a few questions, but then guys, I got to go. This then calculation implied by this. APE closed at $1.92. Yes, it's trading in the aftermarket, whatever, but this is the math that you would do given now that we have the final share counts. This would be 192 times the total number of shares. That's the market value. AMC 551, total number of shares outstanding is 517. Market value of this, total market value is this, 4.6 billion-ish. And then you divide by the total shares outstanding, given what they're saying. So $3.20. If you're an AMC shareholder, yeah, you should be pissed. I get it. It is what it is on that. That's not me, because I actually really thought it was option 1, which would not have diluted you guys. It would have done nothing. Is it for sure? The last thing I would say as well is, wait, hold on. There's a couple of things here. Where to find the I did, page 51. Okay, the stockholder amendment on page 51. Let me show that really quick. 1 second. I just make sure, because these were like little notes that I also wanted to go through. So just in case. Okay, it must have been on the other PDF. Okay, so then the last little thing, yeah, can the proxy change between now and when they issue the final proxy? The answer to that question is yes. So it absolutely is the case that you should expect the whole other round of social media people fine-tooth combing the difference between those two documents. So from some of the things that might change between the two documents, and you can kind of see this in the preliminary shelf filing versus the final filing of the prospectus of the shares. So just if you're curious how this works, you can see it just off of the August shelf filing and the September final filing. There were some very small verbiage changes, which is why I had to review both. But more or less, those documents stayed the same. It is the case that you can also have clarifications to the proxy vote. The spirit will more or less stay the same, but it is still 100% worth everybody's time to make sure these two documents are the same once they come out. But nonetheless, that is kind of the last little thing. And let me just make sure that there wasn't. Why does it keep doing this? All right, for whatever reason, I'm fat fingering this in the worst possible way. Let me see if I can get it. Yeah, guys, sorry, I keep fat fingering this. Let me try to figure out. Just want to make sure that there wasn't something I really felt needed to happen. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you this one more thing. This is from the document. It's on page 51, but in just in case you can, just if you were trying to see it more clearly, from the vote, um, for the expansion of the dilution cap proposal 1, this is a copy, which is the rewrite of the verbiage on the cap. In other words, when initially the cap was 5 and lower than this, basically right up at the limit of how many shares outstanding there are right now of AMC. The new verbiage would be Section A of the bylaws of the corporate bylaws, general corporate law of the state of Delaware. And so that's, if you want to find the verbiage, this is the document that it will then change to, which is here, right here in Section A. You can compare that. All of these documents are public filings. So if you needed to compare that to the initial filing with the state of Delaware, that's where you would look. With that, I will take a few questions. I am going to ignore all the haters because I do have to go hang out with my friends and I don't feel like being in a bad mood about it. So, all right, let's see. Okay, there are a few things I'm reading. APE surpasses the price of AMC. Okay. All right, guys, if this actually happens, then yes, you're right, because these two should now trade at parity because given what they're saying, parity currently is at 320. According to my calculation, if I'm wrong, I'm probably wrong because there's some fees fit into that calculation that the bankers take. But it should be approximately around 320 right this minute. And then they should start to trade 1 for 1, except for, and this is really important that you guys understand this, because there's an uncertainty. This is how the arb traders will always trade it. They will, until the vote goes through, they will leave a small spread between those two, and that spread will basically account for the time value until he gets his vote. So if the ARB people who are way smarter than me, because they probably have gone down the entire list of shareholders and calculated probabilities associated with who's going to actually turn in the proxy versus who will not turn in the proxy. But because of that, they may find a different calculation on the probability of the vote going through. But that spread that's left between the two is going to be the time value it takes for management to actually get the vote that they want. So if that explains it, after that point, that spread, when that gap closes all the way to a certain point, then the two should trade 1 for 1 in lockstep. And so a lot of that will have to do with how this company reports earnings in the upcoming quarter. And I guess we'll all be listening to that too. I certainly will be. So hopefully that clarifies that statement. AMC is hard to borrow. Okay. Yes, that should be the case because right now, given the way this proxy is written, all clarity is gone. I wouldn't be surprised if there were very few to no shares short APE at this point, because like I said in past episodes, the more common things for the heartless the folks that are just pure quant traders. This is going to be a quant trader thing. This is not going to be even anything else. Right now, people are going to do something really wild because you still do have the risk that the vote doesn't go through. The only thing is because he's been so clear in this documentation that he is, in fact, with every share issuance of APE, diluting the AMC shareholders. I don't know actually the behavior that AMC shareholders will have that are not, that are not retail oriented. But yes, that will still follow Reg Show. So being this far outstanding in Reg Show does mean that they would be in violation, and is offering negative 56%. I'm not sure what that means. The number should be over 100% for what the hard to borrow is as far as borrow rates go. If not, again, you guys have my video on that, on what I think should be done. That is not correct, Vincent. Okay, this is not correct, and it's not correct but it's not far. And let me explain why it's not correct. This is a jargon issue. So Vincent, you're not necessarily. I get it. The jargon is really jargon is the hardest part of finance. So I wouldn't feel upset for that. The 550 million shares outstanding is the cap on dilution. Okay, the shares outstanding after this. Let me show this very clearly so that, because sometimes jargon gets people that are incredibly right in every other way, meaning the spirit of what they're doing is right on, the way that they're thinking about it is right on, but because one little baby jargon word makes it off and confusing. Okay, this is the total. This part right here, proposal 1, is the total shares of common stock not outstanding but authorized for issuance. Okay, and that refers back to the bylaws, which for whatever reason, because it's not the case that every bylaw has a cap, but that refers back to, sorry, I didn't put it on here. That refers back to the bylaws of the company themselves, which are a public filing that you can get. Okay, so for whatever reason, he was always allowed to dilute the company with a cap on it of 524, some really odd random number that must have made sense at the time. He's raising that to 550 just to make it even. Okay, so that's what the 550 million refers to. The float always refers to, it can, depending on how you use the word, it can refer to two things, but it truly should only refer to the shares outstanding that are not locked up. Okay, all of the corporate managers are locked up. In order for a corporate person to sell their shares outstanding, they have to get the board to vote. And then given the way that the US works now, they have to do so in a programmatic way. They should, et cetera. And they have to do so according to the laws of the United States as relates to filing, all that good stuff. So these people, the 1.5 billion shares, or the 3.395, they are not usually included in the float if someone's calculating it correctly. Nor is typically, now some people will also exclude the passive investors like Vanguard. And then Antara, until the 90 days lock, which is an agreement to their debt, they should be excluded from the float. So the float should only be the portion of shares outstanding that can actually be floated. In other words, sold. Okay. Now, naked shorting is not about the float. It's about the total shares outstanding. That's item 1, okay? That often gets confused in the jargon. It is what it is. Item 2 that sometimes gets confused in the jargon is sometimes there are other people that are locked up that do that. So that should show us. Oh, sorry. Item 2, there are other people that are sometimes locked up, so you kind of have to go through, but this would be the majority. Otherwise, they would show the other locked up people fairly clearly. The final thing that I noticed is wrong. It's flat out just wrong in the data feeds for what the word float actually means. I have noticed that in some data feeds, they take the total shares outstanding and then add some additional shares that look to me like the naked shorts, which means that the data feed is doing something crazy in the way that it's actually demonstrating it. That is just wrong data, is what that is. That's not something that you can get mad at the exchange for. That's not any number of things. That's just flat out the data vendor has a poor implementation of data. So you cannot add in the naked shorts or any other shares outstanding other than the ones that are there to calculate the float. That's just a poor calculation. But that's what the word float actually means. Vincent, that's not your fault as far as that goes. So please don't get mad at me for I'm not trying to pick on you. I think it's actually really awesome that you mentioned it because I've been meaning to do a video just on that, given what I'm seeing. So hopefully we're cool. All right, I'm about to lose a load. Okay, yeah, chicken lover. I don't know how to answer that. Let's see. I'm trying to see what else is going on. Okay, Vinny, I can't answer your question on this, you guys, because at this point, gosh, I don't even know what to say. I'm not going to answer questions like this though, but Vinny, but I appreciate you trying to answer or ask. What I would do is that for the professionals that you work with that are allowed to speak on what you specifically should do, take this video and chat with them about it. I need more views anyways. But like honestly, I've been as clear as I can go on this. I don't have thoughts, you guys, as you know. I'm very consistent with this in all my videos. I don't have thoughts on short squeeze because, like I said, that is a momentum and technical trade. I'm a fundamental girl. I read documents, I explain what they are, and then I talk to you about what's in the press releases and stuff like that. So it's just not my deal, guys. It's not even that I'm not trying to comment like everything else. Okay, there's two more questions, and then I think I'm at my. Well, I'll go until okay. So I think people really want to know the estimated share price if everything goes through the way AA wants. Did you do a video on that? Thanks, Luis. If you just rewind this after it's done, I have a whole sheet, hopefully that is clear, that goes through the math. So yeah, I discussed that a little bit earlier. So definitely look at that portion of the video. But yeah, I know that that's the most. Now, I would say though, just as one clarification, I'm using end of day pricing for Friday. If AMC or APE trade up, the two should still follow that math. But that math is the ratio. So when I talk about spread, I want you to realize that there's a bunch of math nerds, and what they're doing is whatever spread they decide ultimately, the arbitrageurs decide these two things should trade at, these two will then trade like a ratio all the way through, whether or not APE trades up or AMC trades up. Now, most of it is going to be AMC driven and not APE driven at this point, is the way that I would interpret it. Technically, both can drive the price one way or the other, but my suspicion is given how much of a discount APE trades at right now, it'll be AMC that drives the price. But nonetheless, if you're an arbitrager, I know you'd call me out on that like this. So, I get it. But for simplicity for other folks, that's what I would say. Okay. Gosh, I really want to shout out every single person that's on this list because you guys have been really supportive of me for the most part and realize that I'm not trying to be like some kind of weirdo on this. I don't care what you guys do. I'm just telling you what I'm going to do as far as that goes. And I appreciate you guys on this. So that's hopefully clarifies anything for you, Luis. Once you finally go through that video, I like lay out the math very clearly, which you now can do because of the proxy statement, which announces the actual finalized share count of APE and AMC shares. So hopefully that helps you there. On the FTDs, I'll say a few words on that just to try to help out. Because I do have a couple of videos, and like I said, jargon is everything in this finance world, and it's really unfortunate. You'll see that I try whenever it's not earnings season to do a bunch of jargon videos because even like a very seasoned professional or even a not so seasoned professional, because what does it really mean to be seasoned? Like you're just gray haired, I don't know, there's so much to learn in this business and everything is so specialized. But the failed to delivers, first I'm going to define that clearly. The failed to delivers will always refer to the actual count that is given by the DTCC, the clearinghouse that clears all US trades. There will never be failed to delivers that exists somewhere else that should be counted because that is just something else that's happening. So those things, in some cases, they could be synthetics that are thumbs up fine, such as the options market and the swaps market. They could be something that will never touch the capital structure and so therefore should not be incorporated in a concept of naked shorts. That would be synthetic things that are trading off exchange. There are some synthetic swap products that are created for international people. Like, honestly, I will one day, if I can just get enough time, go through all the different types of synthetics. I'm not avoiding the question. You guys can see in all my videos, I do try to start to say a little bit about synthetics, but there are some synthetics that are legit, but do not touch the cap structure and are made for people that are overseas to take a position in AMC long and short. However, in most cases, the ones that are legit will touch the US swaps market in a particular way. I will not go through that because it is actually not a 5-minute explanation. It is like closer to a 30 to 40-minute explanation. Okay. And like I said, I got brunch. Okay. So none of those things though, none of that type of synthetics touches the true concept of naked short, which Reg Show regulates. All that other stuff is regulated in a number of different ways, most of which is ISDA, but then there's some jargon confusion there because everybody is an ISDA bank. There's no such thing as a non-ISDA bank because if you're doing anything with swaps, that is regulated under ISDA. So that is also a jargon miscommunication out there. It really requires a 30-minute video given how many places the jargon hits different things. Okay, so the failed to delivers that we're talking about are just the portion that is regulated under Reg Show. I do have a video on that. That is going to be the DTCC period that puts out that number. What will happen, and I was originally going to do that video, but this became more important because I know that this is more confusion. What will happen is that I'll show you that documentation so you can see it. And then if you choose to disagree with me, I'm cool with that. The APE shares will disappear. If you are short APE shares, they will convert. This will go in the file. They will convert to AMC reverse split shares. Because they've combined the two, there is no ambiguity that if the vote goes through, the QSIP will change. Okay. If they had split those two, like I said in past videos, it's a little bit more ambiguous because there is no documentation ruling that I could find from the DTCC or anyone else as relates to that QSIP change. But now we don't even have to guess. It is unambiguous that the QSIP will change. So what will happen is that you will have in the file a QSIP change and a share count change. There's like two columns. I have to like try to find an old file. If not, I'll make something that looks approximately like the security master, which is the actual document that is released across to all the exchanges as well as all the finance community that does this type of data work. And in that case, every position for AMC will switch and swap over. At that point, the DTCC will still do their regular count of the FTDs, incorporating anything that's going on with APE in the full number. And the real quizzicalness of this, which I don't know that there's a great precedence for, is what that implies, because 100% there are people in the finance community that are arbing the two. In other words, they are long APE and short AMC. So those two shares technically can be delivered to cancel each other out. But what does that then imply for how this thing will trade? I got no clue. Okay, that's going to be. I'll try to think about it, but I actually have no clue. And it'll be up to like market mechanics people to make that up and really describe why they feel the way they do. But we won't know until we know how this thing trades if the vote goes through. But the failed to deliver should all group back together and then reverse split 10 for 1. And then the DTCC will post the number that is the actual number that remains as failed to delivers. So hopefully that clarifies. It is not straightforward. I think at this point, given that I just said that, I am more than sure that I owe you a video on that, which I will try to do next week because it is the middle of earnings season. There's over 150 companies, but probably closer to 200 companies reporting that I have to listen to as many as I can next week. But so this one is not straightforward. That one would definitely be in part of it I can explain to you. And the other part of what you really care about is how will it trade? That one I don't know for sure. And I don't think anyone actually knows, but some people will have really great clarity on it. Let's see. Okay, I don't know what else some of this is like rolling across pretty fast. Yeah. Thank you to some of you guys who are very knowledgeable that are trying to answer some of these questions. Okay, let's see what time I'm at. I still have about 10 minutes. Okay, if I didn't answer your question, just post it down below because I'm having difficulty scrolling here. Let me actually chat overlay this so you guys can see what I'm seeing. It's actually kind of hard, this software that I've got. Let's see. All right. I'm going to scroll up a little bit and see if I can find it. Okay. By the end of it, if you bought $4, yeah, okay. So it looks like most of these answers are pretty solid here. Okay. I don't really have too many more stuff to say on this, so I'll go ahead and close it out. Put it in the comment section. You guys try to be nice. I know that it's hard because some of you guys are, and I try to be nice back, except if you guys go too crazy on me in the comments. I have to meditate sometimes because I know how fired up some of you guys are being in this for the long haul, and it's really easy to get very upset and angry when you have lost money on a position. I've been there, so I try to appreciate that when you go there, but just realize I'm just a person. All right, I'm trying to answer your questions as best as can. Nick C. So, okay, just in closing, if you're listening to this really quick, I do go through all the calculations. Please do watch the replay, and if there's still confusion there, hopefully that will clarify. And also, there may be others that write things, but that is how I read this document. And good luck to everybody. Happy Chinese New Year's. This is like the 7th day of like 14 days, but then there's the final Lantern Festival at the end. And take care. Bye.